This is such an honor to be here with a legendary band. The countdown is over for the release of Metallica and San Francisco Symphony S&M2 live album and video documenting September 6 and 8 shows at San Francisco Chase Center in 2019. Welcome, Kirk, Hammett, and thank you for having us. How you doing?
Great. Really great. Thank you.
I know that all Metallica are meeting again in Los Angeles, and let me tell you that I feel blessed to be here having my first interview with you guys, which happens in a moment where all the world is trying to get used to the new era we live in. And what's your feeling about everything that has happened in the recent months, and are you dealing with it as a musician?
Well, it's strange. I mean, something like this hasn't happened, obviously, in a long time. And, you know, I think that our world culture wasn't really expecting to be put on hold, to be put on pause. But, you know, as a musician and how it's affected me, I have to be honest. I'm an extremely introverted person and very shy at times, and I like my solitude. I don't grab door handles or elevator buttons. I don't touch any of that stuff unless, you know, I do it very carefully. And I've been working at home ever since I can remember, because that's what guitar players do. They sit around and play guitar at home and work on music. So, I mean, the only real changes that have come to me in my life is the fact that I have to wear a mask, I have to social distance, and I have to have just show my basic respect for the human race and humanity by trying not to get infected or infect other people. And, you know, I think that it's important that everyone on the planet does that. Yeah. Else we're never going to get through this. I mean, I hate to be so dour about it, but we all have to do the same thing if we're going to move forward. And that's a cold realization. And if we realize that in 6 months' time or 6 years' time, it just needs to be done.
Absolutely. But I want to go back to that amazing September. I sat down in a movie theater since the very first frame of S&M movie about San Francisco, you know, and the waiting fan outside the center. I felt this concert would be amazing. How did it feel to be back on stage with San Francisco Symphony after 20 years from 1999?
It was a wonderful homecoming. We knew what to expect because we had experienced it before, playing with an orchestra. So walking out on that stage for those first rehearsals and hitting those, you know, first few guitar chords and hearing the orchestra just like kick in and join us, it was just an amazing feeling, you know, strangely familiar, but just as invigorating as it was back 20 years ago, and just as inspiring as it was 20 years ago. And for me as a guitar player, I mean, it's my dream to walk out on a stage and hit a full-blown power chord at full volume, full power, and hear the orchestra come in behind me and support that chord, different instruments and embellishments. It's an amazing feeling. It's you and other people putting in the effort to make something exponentially so much bigger. And being in tandem with the orchestra is a really unique and special feeling for me as a guitar player.
And, you know, you were talking about the atmosphere. I was mind blown by the stage. That was really amazing. It was a concert, but it looked like a movie. Before I knew it was a movie, it looked like a cinematographic experience. You looked like you were flying with your instruments. The stage presence, everything was mind-blowing. Not so much word are needed to describe the atmosphere we already done, but let's start from the ecstasy of gold, resonating so strong and making the bond you've always had with Ennio Morricone moving once again. He sadly passed away weeks ago, so this could be the right place to remember him What does the ecstasy of gold mean in Metallica history?
A substantial piece of music. I mean, it's a really inspiring piece of art that Ennio created, and that's the piece of music that we hear before every single Metallica show. And so it needs to be a strong piece of music to be able to introduce us. And Ennio had it within him to create that piece of music that is so fitting for us as an intro. I mean, that song, that piece, every time I hear it, all of a sudden I feel like I'm about to go on stage. There's been times when I've heard it far away from any concert venue, and all of a sudden I start feeling like I gotta play my guitar and warm up and start stretching, because my body thinks it's going on stage. It's a very sort of Pavlovian condition. But the fact that he passed away a few weeks ago, and the fact that we paid tribute to the Ecstasy of Gold and it being played in we didn't mean it as a tribute, but it has become a tribute because of his passing. And I think it's a great way for us to contribute to his legacy, and it's a great way to show how we are connected with this amazing piece of music that he wrote.
Yeah, and that talking about Metallica and San Francisco Symphony S&M 2, we are hearing a very special Virgin Rock Live on our radio to celebrate the album, documenting the show. So for all the people who weren't there, we will try to make them feel the symbiosis between you and the AVP's orchestra you were playing with. How did Metallica and classical music meet? I know that it's a difficult question, but there are two words closer than people could think.
Yeah. This all started from Michael Kamen. It was Michael Kamen's original source of inspiration to approach us and say, hey, let's do something with an orchestra. Let's collaborate. Let's create a huge sound with Metallica and a symphony. And so we had met Michael Kamen because he initially came in to score the strings on Nothing Else Matters in 1991, and that's how we initially came into contact with him. And so when he came and asked us if we were interested, of course we said yes. And then we went into a huge discussion about the similarities between heavy metal and classical music. And I mean, it's, for me, it's really obvious. The drama, the dynamics, the peaks, the valleys, the volume levels, the intensity, the range of emotion. It's all very similar to heavy metal, particularly the drama. The drama of heavy metal and the drama of classical music, very, very similar. The dynamics, from soft to loud, there being a part in the music where all the instruments come in and just kind of play together to hammer a musical theme through. I mean, that's real similar to what heavy metal is all about. It's just like getting a musical theme and just hammering it through and just like beating everyone over the head with it.
And about that, and about how challenging was, and every challenge is a good thing for a band, even when 20 years ago you played with an orchestra for the first time. But let's talk about when you played on a non-Metallica song with the orchestra. It was Alexander Mosolov, The Iron Foundry. It was the exact moment where we heard what you were saying us just some seconds before, and what Michael Tilson Thomas said about heavy metal and classical music. And that composer Alexander Mosolov was defined once from critics like disrupting, like something avant-gardistic, futuristic. It's what happened on stage with Metallica in that moment of the show. Yeah.
That's a really, really interesting way to look at it. You know, maybe the Iron Foundry was composed with a band like ours in mind. Maybe Prolokov or Mazelov was looking for a sound like ours. It just hadn't been created yet. That's what I like to think. These composers were trying to capture a sound that was just it wasn't discovered yet, and I believe that the sound that they were looking for was heavy metal. And the Iron Foundry, it's interesting because it has a real heavy sort of feel to it, and a really heavy demeanor to it, which is very similar to what we do ourselves. And when we joined the orchestra and played it, we actually had to be we had to let ourselves be conducted by Edwin Outwater and Michael Tilson Thomas, and that in itself was a little nerve-wracking because when the conductor points at you and you're like but yeah, I mean, that was Michael Tilson Thomas's way of drawing a thread between certain eras of classical music and certain eras of heavy metal, us being a certain era. And I think it was a really, really great way to show that, without classical music, a lot of our music that we have today just would sound completely different. I mean, classical music is the foundation for so many other styles of music. And I believe, heavy metal is right in there.
Yeah, even with the Shessian Suite, was about those people living in the past, but with a lot of similarities to metal musician, because they used to imagine, they used to as a vision of entertaining forms like a band like yours. So it was very interesting to hear those directors tell us how much sometimes we don't understand about our past, and we make like divisions between musical genres, but they are very closer than what we can imagine. And I read that your sound engineer, Greg Fiedelman, vision was all about breaking down the wall which people think could stand between orchestra and rock band. And one of the songs that revealed him it was true in the show, and tell me if the song is the right one, was The Memory Remains. Do you feel the same about that song?
Well, it's amazing because what the audience's interaction on that song, along with what the symphony was playing during the audience interaction, it created a moment where everyone, and we encouraged the audience to sing along. And during that sing-along part, the orchestra did the most amazing thing, this whole musical interlude where they're taking the parts and just stringing out with arpeggios and different tempos and all these different contrapuntal parts. And then you add the audience in with their singing, and at one point it really sounds like everyone in the venue is connected and one big gigantic orchestra. And I'm not sure if that's the answer to your question, but that's the one thing about The Memory Remains that really stood out for me. And yeah, it was a moment where everyone was contributing to the music, and there's no boundaries, there's no barriers, and it was a beautiful moment, at least for me.
And even before the hard times of coronavirus, and what this foundation gave you back from an emotional point of view, because these are hard times, but you gave so much and people are giving you back a lot of things. I saw your official site. You have a section with the hero of the day, talking about people who are doing things for help communities. You gave money for a lot of scholarships, so you're helping people, and I think it's important to give that message. Music has to be helpful in times like this, isn't it?
Yes. We're in a position where we can help a lot of people in a lot of different ways on a lot of different levels. And I believe that our music helps people on a certain level, and the rewards that we get from that, I think it's the appropriate thing to do, to take the benefits of those rewards and turn it around and help more people. Because we are in a position to do that. We're in a position to make a difference. We're in a position of influence, so that, when we say, okay, we're going to do this and we need to get this done, people follow through for us because of who we are. And, we recognize that we can form a network throughout the United States and the world to help people who need help. And a lot of those people are Metallica fans, but even if they're not Metallica fans, they're just people who need help, and we try to be there for as many people as possible. And maybe at the end of the day they become Metallica fans, and that's like the one benefit, but that's not our main motivation at all. It's just to take all the benefits that have been bestowed on us as musicians and contributors to culture, and to try to help more people. Because for me, I believe that we're here we're put on the earth to help each other. That's like one of the main things why we're even here.
Kirk, thank you so much for the time we spent together. Metallica and San Francisco Symphony S&M2 is out in different amazing formats, from digital to deluxe box set. So glad we talk about it. And thank you for having me.
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Prego.
Ciao. Ciao, Kirk. Ciao.
Ciao. Arrivederci.